and Serial to start asking you questions. And here's a microphone.
All right. Do I need to have any questions? Is it working all right?
Oh yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a powerful
I don't
one.
need to yell or anything.
Okay, thank you for coming. We are doing a documentary for the city's of Milwaukee's 120th anniversary. So we want to know more about you as a Milwaukeean. Tell me your full name, date of birth, where you went to school, things like that.
David Tyler, 10/14/57, and I went to school. We moved in Milwaukee in 4th grade, between 3rd and 4th grade. So I was born in Wairika, California. We moved to Medford when I was 5, and then moved to here, I think, when I was 9, maybe 8 or 9.
Okay, and then you went to
Milwaukee. I went to St. John's first for 4th grade and half of 5th. Then I went to Milwaukee Grammar for half of 5th and 6th. Then Milwaukee Junior High, Milwaukee High School.
a Milwaukeean.
Milwaukee, pretty through and through, yeah.
All the way.
Yeah.
And
everyone in that little group right there.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so then what happened? You went on to college?
Well, no, actually I traveled around for a couple, 3 years, went around the country. I traveled around the country 3 times. I went to Cape Cod, lived on Cape Cod for a summer, went and spent time in Key Largo, Florida, rode a bicycle across the country.
This is how he got around.
And then I rode a bicycle then from Portland and went back down to LA, spent a year in LA, went back to Florida, went back to Cape Cod, came back here to help my mom, and then my dad passed away, and then I ended up staying and this and that and the other. And so I've been in the Portland area for the last 40 plus years after that. Then I moved back in Milwaukee in 2012.
Okay.
So we've been back here again. And my mom's been here since we moved in '66, and so she's been here ever since.
Well, tell us about your parents. What? Why did they come here?
They so in my viewpoint, and I think you've talked to my mom already, so you have her viewpoint. But from my viewpoint as a kid, we were born in Wairika, where my dad was born and raised. Then we moved to Medford for his job, and then we came up here. And apparently in Milwaukee, we wanted to come up, and my dad wanted to live by water. So they looked at places from Medford up here and looked at different places, and they found, it was a rainy day, Mom and Dad were over by the Willamette looking at this house, and a seaplane took off, and Mom said, I could live at a place where a seaplane flies in front of your house. And so that's how they ended up buying this house, and it was right after the '64 flood, right on the river. So people, and this was in '66, so people didn't have flood insurance back in those days. So Dad got the house pretty cheap. The house had flooded in '64 clear up to the main floor, like 4 inches on the main floor.
Oh my
so the
goodness.
whole basement had been flooded. So we lived there, or I lived there for 8 years through high school and such. And so that was quite an interesting place to grow up at, there, right on the river and stuff type of thing. So that was...
Yeah, did you play a lot on the river as a kid?
We played, mainly we played pretty much all summer long. We had an inlet, we had Elk Rock Island, we're right by Elk Rock Island, so we played on Elk Rock Island, kind of like Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, that kind of a thing. So we had little rowboats and made little houseboats and things like that and stuff. So that was,
So how many siblings?
1 brother and 1 sister. Yeah, both of them. My brother and I, we built a duplex next door to my mom's place now. So that's where we're living now, on the river again, next door to her place. And then my sister has a farm up in Ridgefield.
Well, that's a lovely place to live on the river there. Mm-hmm. I know I've been to your mom's house, and it's very interesting to sit out on the back porch.
Yeah, there's always something going on out there. It is.
Yeah, and so you went to high school, and you wandered around for a while because it was the hippie days, I assume. Mm-hmm. And so then what happened? You came back and got into an industry of some sort?
Well, I actually came back. I was helping my mom here in Milwaukee, and I ended up getting a job at where Goodwill is right now, and it was garden products when I first applied for it. Hudson House Warehouse used to be there, and I enjoyed warehousing work, and I enjoyed that kind of work. So when I got into it, I didn't realize that was going to be the industry that I worked at, but that's what I ended up working for them. A bigger company bought them, and then another bigger company bought that. So I worked for Cisco Foods for 40 years. Through the same company, just different names of the companies. They just paint the trucks and it's a different company and go about our business doing the same exact thing we did before. So they're no longer where the Goodwill is. They're down in Wilsonville now, but so I retired a couple of years ago now.
Wilsonville, huh?
Yeah.
My dad worked for Hudson House for
Did you really?
most of his adult life.
Oh, neat. Yeah, I sure enjoyed that place.
Sorry, I had to throw that in.
No, that's okay.
So your parents came here for the job, it sounds like.
Right, yeah. My dad he worked for Pacific Power and Light. And so, which is precursor to Pacific Corps, and so he worked downtown in Portland here, and but as kids, we had Safeway and Thriftway downtown Milwaukee, and you had all your little stores. We never had to go to the city. I mean, you went to the city. If you ever left town, you were like going on an adventure to go to Portland. We just little Milwaukee kids. We just stayed. We had everything we needed right here.
Right here in Milwaukee. What was some of your favorite places to go as a kid in Milwaukee?
Well, probably the Pietros and the Milwaukee Bowl. Those were kind of the couple of the main places that we would go to. Now we didn't. Well, in the Victory Theater. Remember the Victory Theater?
Yes, I do.
We did the Victory Theater a lot, so we did those three things. But I remember we would play tag on our 10 speeds downtown Milwaukee on Sunday because there was no cars. You could drive, you could race, chase each other around all downtown Milwaukee, and there was no cars anywhere. It was we called it Mayberry, just rolling up the sidewalks. And
okay, and how about your grandparents? What do you know about them? Were they from another country or?
No, well, my grandfather, I have a grandfather on my mom's side. He was from Italy.
Oh.
Now, I'm not positive if he came from Italy, but we still have relatives in Italy that my mom has contacted. So, but they were from West Virginia on my mom's side, and they moved to LA. So they lived in LA. Mom was raised in LA. And so that's where they lived until they all passed away. Then my other grandparents lived in Wairika, and they had a lumber yard in Wairika.
Oh.
They were kind of, I think, from the Midwest. And they ended up there.
Okay.
Wairika. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. So did they come during the Depression from West Virginia?
I think so. It probably was right around in that time, possibly. Yeah, I'm not positive. I don't really hear stories about that. I hear them. Grandpa was always pretty frugal, loved shopping at Goodwill and stuff, so he was pretty frugal that way.
Okay. So then there was, Italy, and you are, to switch gears a little bit here, you are very active in the Milwaukee community. What kinds of things are you active in?
Well, the museum, one thing.
And thank you for that.
You're welcome. Exactly. Yeah, I appreciate it. But I'm not really active. My wife was active with the First Friday. My mom, of course, was mayor and state rep and stuff, and so that's kind of how I got pushed into activity. And I'm not one to be in the meetings much or any of that kind of stuff. So I will go to our neighborhood meeting, but I don't want to be a board member and this and that and the other. So you might think I'm active. I'm not that active. Oh, actually, I do. I volunteer with Meals on Wheels. I deliver Meals on Wheels.
Thank you for that.
So you bet. So that's one of the things. So that's probably my biggest activity between the museum and delivering Meals on Wheels.
Good. And you're retired, you said?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And you have your favorite things in Milwaukee as a kid. So what's your favorite things about Milwaukee now?
Oh, the bike paths. So we have Springwater Corridor that goes all the way out to Boring. We have the trolley trail that goes down to Oregon City. and the other part of the spring water goes all the way up to the east side esplanade. So I, from my house, can go north, south, or east for a 20-mile ride and basically not be on roads. So that's my favorite thing. Besides the river too. I mean, I enjoy, I go kayaking and playing on the island and stuff still and whatnot. I still do that. A lot of bird watching. That's kind of one of my favorite
Nice.
non-moving activities.
Well, from that perch.
Ask them about festivals and stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah. Did you attend the festivals growing up? We haven't had them recently, but talking about festival days and what else did we used to have? 57, you wouldn't remember the Centennial.
No, the Milwaukie Festival days, they did that when we were in junior high. I think they first started that when we were in junior high, and I remember during those periods when they would set it up in the field out in the back and stuff. In the summertime, we would hang out there, 7th and 8th grade and stuff. I think we did some of that. And then we'd do the umbrella parade and stuff. We liked those kind of things, and like currently, so we do that, and the tree lighting, and then the solstice party down on the river and stuff like that with the Christmas ships. We'd have quite a few Christmas ship gatherings, as Christmas ships come by 6 days a year.
Oh, and you can see them from where you are.
Right in our house. And so we try to, so we used to have one big party, and now we're trying to have several smaller ones. So we just get groups of people that would know each other, like Milwaukeeans or my family or my wife's family or something like that, to enjoy the Christmas ships, because they come out in good weather or bad, and they're out there, and it's pretty cold and miserable out there. So
well, I know the solstice party is fun.
It is fun.
I remember it as being fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a while now.
It has, yeah.
But they're going to do it full on again this year, is what
I think they
That's
are.
what I heard, yeah.
So that should be fun.
Yeah.
And how about the Columbus Day Storm? Do you remember any of that?
That was before our time. That happened in '62, and then so Columbus Day Storm was in '62, and then the flood, which was in
64,
was in '64, and then we moved in '66. But the interesting thing in my mind from that area is that we still have neighbors on both sides of us in that neighborhood that are still there. We still have neighbors. We have one neighbor that's been there since '55, and she was in her dad and mom bought. They live next door to us, and she still owns it. We have other neighbors that have been there that kind of just bought the places, like in '66 or in '64 or something. They kind of remember that time, and they were young people and stuff, and just buying a house on the river, and then all of a sudden you get this big giant flood, and they got little baby kids and stuff, and it's quite interesting stories in some of these people. Well,
what about '96? It would have been about the same, right?
It was actually quite a bit lower. It was similar. I had a houseboat at the time on the Columbia River. And from our houseboat, I could sit on the piling, probably a little bit higher than I am on this seat. That was how I was sitting on the top of the piling, so we were that close to having the piling be underwater, and then all bets were off. What do you do when the pilings are underwater? So
doesn't your boat rise?
It does, but once your pilings are above, so what's going to hold you on there? So
exactly.
We had interesting. We were hoping that weren't all going to float downstream as a one big group.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. What's some other big historical things you remember about Milwaukie?
Kennedy showing. We were here when John F. Kennedy was here, and they were building the building that is now Key Bank. It wasn't finished yet, and we were pretty young kids. I'm not sure what year, and it says
60, I think.
But he was here. He wasn't.
He was here twice, actually, and I think it was.
So it wasn't John Kennedy. It was his brother, because his brother then got shot. Yeah, so that's what. So it was Robert Kennedy. When Robert Kennedy was here, that's when I saw. That's who I saw was Robert Kennedy.
Oh,
he was here in. You would have been the late '60s, right? What year did he get? Did he get shot in '68 or something like that?
Something like that.
That sounds right. Yeah. 68.
So '68. So I would have been in like 6th grade. So I remember getting up, and he was on a flatbed pickup, And us kids climbed up on the back of the pickup. So we were on this big flatbed, and with the soon-to-be president of the United States as little kids, we didn't know.
That's great security.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Back in those days. Well, then you got shot down, didn't you?
Yeah.
So maybe it wasn't that good a security. Yeah, maybe we should have had better.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's one of the stories I remember.
So we have a lot of great events coming around this year in December. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll be at the solstice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because it will be raining,
Well, and see, my wife suggests she'll keep our house open, so I like to go down to the solstice, but if and you guys are included too, and our viewers, Greg and Michelle, but can come to the house, and if it is raining and stuff, you can see it from inside the house and you're staying dry or something. So we could do both of them. So that's one of the parties that I'm planning is having it for the city, the solstice, and any city people that want to can come to the house and stay dry and do that. And or go down.
Well, that's wonderful. We'll have to get his number.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I know where he lives.
Yeah, you know where he lives. Just walk on in. Yeah, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to. There's a whole bunch of people. Everybody knows everybody, right? Yeah, just be our neighbors and such. So yeah, it should be fun.
What day is that?
The
17th.
I think it's the 17th.
Right.
Yeah.
And let's see, anything else about Milwaukee that you'd like to put in there? Things people don't know. You must have seen a lot hanging around with your mom.
Well, and one of the things and I haven't found it here in the archives much, but the thing that I noticed most as a kid when we were down there, we had a gravel pit where the water treatment plant is now. We had a gravel pit. It's what I call a gravel pit. Basically, they had a barge with a tugboat and a dredge across the river, and they were pulling gravel out of the river and then taking it over and taking it up on land and using it for construction and stuff. But that's so as kids, it was construction site. When we look out on the river and we didn't see necessarily beauty, we see the island and stuff, but you see this dredge out there doing all this stuff, and it was working all the time, and she always had this barge and dredge. And so to me, it was always a working river. As opposed to right now, everybody wants to have beautiful and go kayaking and pretty stuff and whatnot, where in the past, it was transportation. People used the river for means of commerce or something.
Sure,
as
not that long ago.
Right, exactly.
All the logs would have been there when you were
had the log booms and stuff, and it was all working stuff down there. Another thing too, this is kind of an interesting story. Being from Island Station and going to Milwaukie, all the schools here, we walked across that railroad trestle all the time. That was the only way we came back and forth. From 4th grade, I would walk across that trestle. Now, when I was short enough, we had there was a catwalk underneath.
Right.
So you could walk on the catwalk, and I remember I was short enough that I didn't have to duck, and as I kept getting taller, I'd have to keep ducking, and finally I'd just walk on the top because I got too big. But I was an altar boy, and so I would come in the morning, I would walk across the trestle, go do my altar boy duties, come back home, change for school, then go back to school.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Did I do that in 4th grade? That's pretty young. Nowadays, parents are keeping a sharp eye on their kids. I walk across the trestle all the time.
Yeah,
Man.
it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
We always walked across that trestle. That was our main freeway, basically. You'd look across there and you could see for a mile and see all your friends, whoever. Okay, there's John way up there, and there's Bill over here, and you could just see everybody because that's what we all did from that neighborhood.
Well, every neighborhood. Most of the boys I know who grew up here in Milwaukee have a story of that
Kind of a thing. Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the same thing with Elk Rock Island. You get away from parents' eyes and stuff like that, and kids will do what kids will do.
Yeah. Boy Scouts used to camp out there.
Yeah. And they used to have a lifeboat kind of a thing. Portland City Parks did this thing through the summertime, and they would have the Cub Scouts or the Boy Scouts cut trails every year, and then they would every day, Monday through Friday in the summer, they would take kids from the Parks Association or something, and they would take them over to the island, and they would have picnics or something. So as when I was a kid, we would go over there and hang out kind of with these kids or see them and stuff. We would always just play on the island. But you had all these other kids that were playing on the island and stuff, and just running around and chasing and doing kid things and stuff. So that was always fun. But you always had all these new kids because every day they would come in on this lifeboat. Yeah, so that was kind of cool.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
You got something?
No, I'm just absorbing all this. I love it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Gosh, I can't think of anything else. Your least favorite thing about Milwaukie back then and now?
The least favorite thing?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have least favorite things, I guess.
Okay.
I mean,
You're a pretty positive guy.
well, I can't think of anything. I mean, sure, we might not like this or that or the other, but everything, I enjoyed. I mean, I kind of miss downtown Milwaukie being like a real downtown, because I probably missed that most from the downtown area. We just drove through West Lynn this afternoon or this morning, and their little downtown, I remember 40 years ago it was pretty hokey, and now it's all dolled up, has these really cute little storefronts, and it's all shop oriented, real restaurants and cute little shops. And hopefully Milwaukie will become that eventually if things go right, instead of having all these empty stores and stuff, because downtown is kind of where that was your city. And then you have, the waterfront, which is the beauty part of it to me. I mean, I could just love sitting and looking out at the river, all day long from the park or any of those other parks. We have 4 great parks right there. You have Milwaukee Bay, you have Kellogg Creek Park, you've got Spring Park, and Elk Rock Island, Peter Kerr Park. I mean, we are quite park positive right on the river. So we could really...
I wish they had places to sit.
Well, yeah, we can always build those things if we ever get around to it.
Yeah. Okay, well, if you would look into the camera and wish the city of Milwaukie a happy 120th anniversary, or however you want to say that.
Happy 120th anniversary, Milwaukie. Congratulations. Keep up the good work.
All right.
All right. That's great.
Thank you.
It sounds